You know, obviously, it's been we kind of mentioned this is a odd rookie class. Couldn't really get a grasp for it. And we saw, as you're seeing on the screen, Lamelo Ball has been balling out. Not to, you know, no pun intended, but he's been playing really well lately. I think he's actually been starting a few games as of recently. So this was a very polarizing guy. I mean, he's been polarizing since he's probably been on the scene. But I remember draft boards. He's been, he was. I saw him as high as 1. I know a close friend of ours had him at 12 on his big board, which is a little out there, but still, I saw him like at 8 or 7. I saw, he's been up and I saw him flying up and down boards, and even he had a rough start. I guess you could say, he wasn't starting. I think he also mentioned the comment like, Michael Jordan didn't come off the bench his rookie year, things like that. But regardless, he's been playing pretty well, in my opinion. I'm glad he's getting a shot, just to get more opportunity. I will say, because I know he's being compared. Obviously we know Lonzo really hasn't lived up to the expectations or the potential that we all thought he was going to be. But I feel like Lamelo, I don't know what to say because they have a similar skill set. But I feel like Lamelo, like he's just able to be himself in terms of he's more comfortable playing. I feel like Lonzo is still just not. There's a bit of like Lamelo. There's more of aggressive. There's more assertiveness. Like he wants to score, and he wants to pass, and he's more true to his game. Where I feel like Lonzo, maybe maybe he's not a natural scorer, and maybe he's just like you mentioned, he's just better off as a starter slash role player. But yeah. Any further thoughts or comments in regards to Lamelo and what he's been doing so far?
I mean, I want to give major props to him because I did not think he was going to do this well. I thought, I mean, I was one of those people that had him lower than 3. I thought he was for sure one of the top 3 prospects because overall this draft class, I mean, it wasn't super top heavy, but it felt pretty clear who those top 3 were. And then after that, there's just a lot of question marks. But I did not expect Lamelo Ball to do this well. For me, it was James Wiseman at the top, Anthony Edwards, and Lamelo. I didn't really know who. I just didn't really know a ton about Anthony Edwards prior to all the draft talk and stuff like that. So I couldn't really rank the two. But Lamelo's been doing super well. I think he's clearly the Rookie of the Year favorite right now. Um, to talk about what you just mentioned with Lonzo and just being able to play more carefree and doesn't have all that stress. I think a large part of that might be the fact that he is the younger brother, so he doesn't have to be the one like the trendsetter, the one who goes before and does it first, and he still has the pressure of his dad. But I mean, Lonzo, his dad was in the news every day. Like he was going on talk shows, he was doing this and that. With Lamelo, I mean, the last thing we heard was Michael Jordan didn't play when he or didn't come off the bench when he was a rookie, and that was months ago, maybe before the season started. So um, I think there's just that pressure is not on Lamelo right now. I think also the fact that he was drafted by the Hornets compared to the Lakers, there's just a different expectation with those two franchises. If you're a top pick for the Lakers, you're expected to be, pretty much what Jason Tatum has become. You're supposed to be the next guy, uh, which Lonzo was drafted right before him, and I don't know. Maybe his father played a role in that because he predicted that he would go to the Lakers and them being in California. I don't know. Anyway, I think that Lamelo. I think he's also a more natural scorer than Lonzo. I think Lonzo tries to focus a lot on passing and defense and all these kind of things. To where Lamelo, I think he's a scorer first, and then the passing comes along with that, and he's just having fun out there and able to get creative. For like I said, Lonzo, it feels like he's thinking about the game more as opposed to just like going out there and playing and having fun. So, I mean, to me right now, it looks like Lamelo's the better of the two brothers. But obviously, it's a very short stint into the season. You can overhype anybody over a few games. Less than 20, pretty much. So we'll see how he does long term. But I think if he can continue this and continue to grow and get better, then the Hornets have struck gold there because we talked about when they picked him how a franchise like that they picking him, it almost felt like they had to because of the star power that he brought along with the potential and the talent and all that kind of stuff. They're just not a team that historically has had a lot of really good players, and so getting a guy who carries that sort of you know following could be a big thing for them. And so if he can continue to improve, along with Gordon Hayward, who's playing really well, I mean the Hornets, they're they're exceeding expectations by a lot because I thought they were going to be far worse than they are right now. And they actually look like they have some pretty valuable pieces that are playing on that court. And I think that also Lamelo and just the player that guards has sort of unlocked some of the potential that we thought we had seen out of guys like Miles Bridges.
Yeah, I will say as right now, they're sixth seed in the East. So I mean, for their standards, they're doing pretty well. But yeah, I think you hit a very good point in that expectations. I think are a little different for each one. Obviously LA, a lot of expect, and then also I think didn't LeBron he get there in and Lonzo's second or third year, right? I forget.
LeBron was there I think it was his third.
I forgot. But regardless, he came to the scene, and then they had that year, and then they traded him. So I mean, obviously, we saw the Hornets come out, but as soon as LeBron got there too, I think the Lakers' timeline accelerated. It's okay. Now we got to
Yeah.
start winning. We don't have time, so there's less room for I guess failure, because as the player goes, you're gonna fail, but you got to learn. Like I think now that was I forget the coach at the time, but that was the Phoenix Suns coach's philosophy. The Devin Booker's rookie year, towards the end, he just said, Devin, just go out there and play, man. If you mess up, you mess up. You'll learn from it. Like this, just go make mistakes. And I think that's kind of. I'm assuming that's kind of the mindset the Hornets are kind of having, because I mean we don't have high expectations of them to begin with, as I guess as the public does, and they don't have like once again they don't have Shaq and all these other legends that people are
Right.
gonna ask, well, why are your Hornets? They have all those people weighing in and offering their opinions. So yeah, I think that's a very important thing to consider is uh, yeah, just he besides the fact that he was drafted number 3, right?
He was drafted number two,
Two,
and it
sorry.
was his second year that LeBron came because I thought about
Yeah, okay,
Tatum because they're the same draft class, and at what
okay,
point LeBron had left the East, and it was the second year.
okay. So yeah, I think that factors into it as well. But yeah, he's definitely playing better than I expected as well, or adjusted quicker than I expected as well. Granted, kind of should seeing it coming. He did play in a professional league in Australia. I know it's not the U.S., but still with professionals, with other grown men, and like you mentioned too, he's already seen Lonzo go through this process of learning how to be a pro in the NBA and learning, how to be an NBA player. So maybe all that has helped him, So the transition wasn't as rough or hard for him coming in. So we'll
Right.
see about that. But yeah, in regards to the other rookies too, I mean, I know Wiseman got hurt, but he was playing pretty well there for a minute. And surprisingly, I know I was kind of down on Anthony Edwards, but he's been solid. He hasn't been horrible, but he's been solid thus far. But unfortunately, I mean, not many other rookies have really contributed. I mean, Patrick Williams played some big minutes, but not really any other rookies have done a lot. Granted, like we kind of mentioned, this was going to be this was an unclear rookie class outside of those three, because once again COVID and everything, it was hard to gauge some of these guys. So
I think there are some of those later round picks that are, they had the flashes though, like a Tyrese Maxey or
yeah, Maxi's good.
Precious for the Heat. He's been doing pretty solid. Peyton Pritchard, when he does play, he had 20 points last night. So
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, still need more consistency, but I mean, yeah,
yeah.
we'll see from those guys the opportunities they get. I know Maxi's gotten more opportunity, because Sixers are resting guys, but we'll see how that unfolds there. But yeah,
Well,
go.
quickly with the Knicks, you're wearing the jersey. Knicks,
Oh yeah,
you've been doing pretty well.
yeah, they've been doing pretty well. Who they draft? Oh, quickly's been doing well.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, and I forgot they got Toppin back. I was like, who's that? That's hilarious. I think that says a lot. That like I totally forgot they drafted Obi Toppin because we haven't seen him. Now, granted, I think that's due to injury, but still, it's just I don't know how that
And
fit
he also
works. Go ahead.
he hasn't popped. I mean, the first 2 games he was, there was some hype behind him, but it kind of died down because of the injury. But also, I mean, he just hasn't done a whole lot.
I know
Quickly is the better one.
I know we slandered our friend Doggo. We'll give him credit because I'm scared. I had to like reaffirm with him before the draft. I was like, "What are your thoughts on topics?" I just don't see what's so impressive. Like obviously, I see he's a athletic, flashy dunker. Other than that, like what? And then he basically said that's about it, and he's terrible on defense. So I mean, we'll see. I don't want to slander him. He's just a rookie. Like we mentioned, Billy played, but we'll see how that pans out for the Knicks. And maybe one of those situations, kind of like what my Spurs have, where 2 years ago we drafted Lucas Samanic at the 14th pick. You haven't heard of him, but Keldon Johnson we drafted 28, and you would have thought he was the 14th pick, and Lucas Samanic was the 28th pick. So
That's the
sometimes,
Celtics right now. Peyton Pritchard, 26, and Aaron Naismith, he was 14th. You're not really seeing a lot of Naismith.
I totally forgot they even drafted a guy named Aaron Naismith.
Yep.
So, but who knows? I mean, maybe he'll pop up a year or two from now. But regardless, we'll have to see how that pans out. I mean, NBA rookies are just so NBA just general progression is just it's not like NFL where like you typically kind of know within the first 4 years because
Right.
these guys are coming in at 19, 20, so it takes them even longer to acclimate. Some guys, I mean, Christian Wood's a prime example. 5 years in, he's finally balling out. So
Or Brandon Ingram. I mean, he
yeah,
didn't do. He had flashes in LA, but he goes to the Pelicans and he blows up. I
my
mean,
boy
Jeremy
Julius
Grant,
Randle. Yeah,
Julius Randle. I mean, he's been on multiple teams, and now he's just blowing up for the Knicks.
yeah.
Jeremy Grant, like you said, he's averaging 23 points per game right now. So I think there's a lot more cases in the NBA where a guy can develop slowly. Even Jalen Brown, I mean, he's had a sort of steady progression, but his rookie year, he averaged like 8 points, or not even his rookie year. I think that was maybe his second year.
Yeah.
One of the two, he averaged like 8 points, and now he's averaging like 28. So,
Yeah, and just for last point too, I remember when Gopper, I thought that was a bad pick, but once again, I understand it now. It was just he was a really raw guy, and it really worked out. Also, Cal, I think he went to Cal. I remember, I think I watched a little bit back. I was like, okay, I see why. I thought he was raw because he had no freaking opportunity because their
right.
offense stunk, and it was just him and the other kid they had that was like a high recruit but got drafted late because he ended up sucking. Um,
Yeah, that's the one hard thing about college, I feel, is that often these guys they go for like a year and then they leave, and so you don't get to see them actually develop typically at the college level. And I mean, when you ask Donovan Mitchell, there was an interview where they're like, "Why didn't you get drafted so high? Like you came in the league and you just killed it." He was like, "Well, at Louisville, we had two big men who couldn't shoot on the court at all times, and they just
yes.
clogged the paint. So how am I supposed to do anything when I got three defenders basically attacking me every time I try to drive?" And so he gets to the Jazz. All of a sudden, they're running sets for him. They have
Hmm.
shooters. They have like things opened up, and you see the difference. And so, yeah, I think that it's just a lot harder to judge rookies at the NBA level when they're coming out of college. And I think that's why we're going to maybe start seeing a lot more people pull the Lamelo Ball and go overseas because as we've seen with Luca, as we've seen with him, or even some of these guys are going to go into the G League and we're going to start seeing them coming out next year. I just think that there's more opportunities to be playing higher level competition than college to where maybe it's easier to see how good you truly are.
And one last thing before we switch over, the last thing, yeah, I think another thing to factor in is I think colleges there's no defensive. The big man can sit in the paint as long as they want, basically.
Right.
So that
Yep.
makes it once again, like you mentioned, tougher already to begin with. Especially if your big man can't shoot, the paint just becomes more clogged. And that's why once again another reason why zone's more prevalent in college is because you know center can sit in there and guard the rim all he wants. So important thing to consider, you know, whenever you're doing evaluation. But going